Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty fascinating. It's a trend that's impacting Nepal's financial sector. We're talking about bankers leaving the country.
Yeah, heading overseas for work.
Exactly. It's a pretty complex story with all these push and pull factors, economics, career ambitions, even the emotional side of leaving family behind.
It's a big decision.
It is, and we've got a ton of interesting data and even some personal stories to help us understand what's going on.
Well, let's start with the sheer scale of this trend.
Okay, yeah, let's talk numbers. How many people are we talking about?
Over the past decade, it's been over 10,000 skilled professionals, including lots of bankers, leaving every single year.
Every year, wow.
Yeah, and it seems to be increasing. The Kathmandu Post, this is last year, 2023, they reported about 12,000 banking professionals specifically left to find better jobs overseas.
That's a huge chunk of their financial workforce.
It really is.
So to understand this better, we need to look at the global landscape, right?
Absolutely. The global banking sector is booming, particularly in places like the UAE, Qatar, Singapore. These emerging markets are really aggressively recruiting skilled professionals, and Nepal, unfortunately, is becoming a major source of that talent.
So there's this huge demand, but what's pushing Nepalese bankers out the door? I mean, it's got to be more than just wanting to see the world, right?
You're right, there are some pretty powerful forces at play. Let's start with the most obvious one, the salary difference. I mean, it's massive.
Yeah, break it down for us. What are we talking about here?
A typical bank employee in Nepal might earn, let's say, 30,000 to 50,000 Nepalese rupees per month.
Okay.
But in the Gulf, those same roles, starting salaries can easily reach 150,000 rupees. And that's before you factor in things like housing allowances and travel perks.
Whoa, so you could be making like 3 times as much.
Easily.
Especially with the cost of living going up in Nepal, that's a huge incentive.
It is. But it's not just about money. A lot of bankers in Nepal, they feel like their careers are hitting a wall. Limited opportunities for the promotion, very little training, and they just feel stuck.
Yeah, we actually read a story about this banker. He'd been in Kathmandu for 5 years, and he saw his colleagues who moved to the Gulf just soaring ahead in their careers. Meanwhile, he felt completely stagnant. It was a big reason why he decided to make the move.
That's a really common feeling. It's not even always about the money. It's about feeling valued, having a sense that you can grow and learn. And a lot of folks just don't feel that way within Nepal's banking system.
It's like being stuck in a rut, even if the scenery is beautiful. But then there's also the whole work-life balance piece, right? I mean, long hours, stressful environment, not much time for family. That's got to take a toll.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Nepal Rastra Bank, which is their central bank, they did a survey in 2023, and over 70% of bank employees said they were unhappy with their work-life balance.
Wow.
So that's a pretty clear sign that there's a lot of stress and pressure in that environment. And a lot of people see moving abroad as a chance to have a less stressful job and more time for themselves, for their family.
Yeah, it's a tough chance, a better quality of life abroad versus staying in a system that maybe isn't working for you. And then there's also Nepal's own internal challenges, right? Things like political instability, a struggling economy, high inflation. That can't help.
You're right. Those factors definitely play a role. When you add in things like frequent strikes that disrupt everyday life, an underdeveloped banking infrastructure, it makes the future seem uncertain.
So it's this combination, right? The allure of better pay, the desire for career advancement, and this yearning for a better quality of life. And then on top of that, you've got the struggles that Nepal itself is facing. It creates a powerful push and pull. But what happens to Nepal when so many skilled professionals, especially bankers, decide to leave? What are the ripple effects? Okay, so we've talked about why they're leaving, but what are the consequences for Nepal when all that experience just walks out the door? What happens to their banking system?
Well, one of the most immediate issues is it creates a skills gap. When you lose all these experienced bankers, it can make the banks less efficient.
Right.
And there's a chance it can lead to some customer trust issues.
I can see that. I mean, if you're a customer and all the familiar faces are gone, the people you trust with your money, it would make you wonder a bit, right? If things are really in good hands.
For sure. And on top of that, it really holds back the development of Nepal's banking sector. I mean, they need these local skilled professionals to grow and develop sustainably, but they're losing them so rapidly.
Yeah, that's a problem. But it's not all bad news, is it? What about all the money these bankers are sending back home?
Ah, yes, the remittances.
I mean, billions of dollars are flowing into Nepal from these workers who've moved abroad, and a lot of them are those bankers we're talking about. Last year was over $8 billion in remittances, a big chunk of that coming from workers in the Gulf. That's got to be a good thing for the Nepalese economy, right?
True, remittances do play a critical role in Nepal's economy. I mean, that money is really significant. But the thing is, it's a bit of a Band-Aid solution, right?
Okay, I see what you mean.
Relying on remittances, it's not a long-term strategy for real economic growth.
Right. It's like you're treating the symptom, but not the underlying cause. And on top of all this, there's another important aspect we have to talk about: the human cost. I mean, this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people making huge sacrifices.
Absolutely. These are real people leaving their families, their homes, their lives. Imagine being separated from your loved ones. You miss birthdays, weddings, all those important moments. And then there's the guilt of leaving your family behind. It's not easy to visit home very often when you're working overseas, so you're separated for long stretches.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation all around. I know with all of this going on, what's the situation in Nepal right now? Is this exodus of bankers still happening? And are there any attempts to slow it down?
Well, the truth is the exodus is not just continuing, it's actually getting worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially to places like the Middle East and other emerging economies. A lot of Nepalese banks are actually having a real hard time finding qualified people to fill positions. It's a recruitment crisis.
So they're losing people and having trouble replacing them.
Exactly. And the positions that are the hardest to fill, mid-level management, the roles that need experience.
I read that some banks are trying to offer higher salaries and benefits to keep people from leaving, but it doesn't seem like it's really working, is it?
No, not really. It makes sense that they try to compete on the financial front, but as we've talked about, it's not just about the money. Remember that feeling of being stuck, that lack of career growth? They need to address that too.
What about training programs? Are there any efforts to, help the people already working in Nepal's banks to develop their skills and maybe move up in their careers?
There are some, yes, the government and some financial institutions are running training programs, but so far they haven't made a big impact. It's a really complex issue.
Yeah, I can see that. So what can be done? I mean, if Nepal wants to keep its skilled bankers and build a strong financial future, where do they go from here?
They need to start by addressing those root causes, not just offering Band-Aid solutions. And one of the most crucial things is dealing with that salary gap. If Nepalese banks want to compete in the global market for talent, they have to offer competitive salaries.
Makes sense. You want to play in the big leagues, got to pay big league salaries. But we've talked about how it's not just about the money. So what else needs to change?
Career advancement. They need to give their employees a real path forward. Things like mentorship programs, leadership training, opportunities to develop specialized skills, and a clear way to move up in the company. It's about showing them that there's a future for them here, a future where they can learn and grow and advance.
So creating a work environment where employees feel valued, like they have opportunities, and not just at the company level. It sounds like Nepal as a whole has to address some of these challenges, right?
Absolutely. Things like inflation, political instability, and even improving infrastructure. It's a long-term project, but if they want to create a place where talented professionals want to stay and build their lives, they have to tackle these issues.
It's about making Nepal a place where people feel confident about their future, where they don't feel like the only way to succeed is to leave. Have other countries that have dealt with this kind of brain drain, have they found any solutions that worked?
Some have tried what you might call brain gain strategies, trying to encourage those who've already left to come back.
Oh, interesting. So luring them back home, how do they do that?
There are a bunch of ways. Tax breaks for returning professionals, research grants for people who want to work in certain fields, or even special visa programs to make it easier to come back and bring that international experience with them.
It's like saying, we value what you learned out there. Come back and share it with us. But what about stopping the next generation of bankers from leaving?
Well, it starts with creating an environment that makes them want to stay. A place where their skills are valued, their ambitions are supported, and they can see a clear path to success.
So it sounds like it's a multi-pronged approach: competitive salaries, real career opportunities, and a stable, thriving economy. Make Nepal a place where young, ambitious professionals feel like they can build a great life without having to say goodbye to everything they know.
Exactly, it's a long-term project, but if they focus on these things, Nepal could turn this challenge into a real opportunity. But let's shift gears for a minute. Let's get personal. Imagine you're a skilled banker in Nepal, faced with this choice. What would you do? What would you prioritize? Money, your career, your family.
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, it's easy to talk about this stuff from the outside looking in, but when you put yourself in their shoes, it's a really difficult decision.
It really is. It reminds us that these trends and these statistics, they represent real people making really tough choices. Everyone with their own story, their own priorities, their own definition of success.
Yeah, it really makes you think, what would you do if you were in that situation? It's a reminder that, searching for a better life sometimes means making really difficult choices.
It does. It really shows how our personal goals and these big economic forces kind of crash into each other. And it shows how interconnected the world is. What's happening with Nepal's banking sector, it's part of a much bigger global trend. These economic forces, they reach across borders and impact people's lives in really powerful ways.
So even though we're focused on Nepal, this story really has implications for everyone. It makes you think about the future of work. How do we balance economic opportunities with our personal connections? What does it really mean to have a good life in a world that's changing so quickly?
You got it. This deep dive, it's about so much more than just banking. It's about the human stories behind these big trends, the choices we make, the things we give up, the dreams that we're chasing.
And even though this exodus of Nepalese bankers creates real challenges, it also gives us a chance to think about things differently and maybe make some positive changes. It's a chance for Nepal to create a better future for its talented people, a future where they don't feel like they have to leave to succeed.
Yeah, I agree. They have an opportunity to create a system that recognizes people's skills, rewards hard work, and gives people the chance to build a good life right there in Nepal without having to say goodbye to their home.
So it's not just about fixing the economic problems, it's about addressing the human side of things, too.
Exactly, creating a system where everyone benefits, both the individuals and the country as a whole.
So it's clear that the story of Nepal's bankers is far from over. It's a story of challenges, but also of strength and ambition and the deep connections people have to their home.
And it leaves us with a question to think about. How do we create a world where talent is supported, there are lots of opportunities, and people feel like they can achieve their dreams no matter where they are?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's not just about Nepal's banking sector, it's about everything.
Yeah, this deep dive might be ending, but the conversation goes on. We hope you stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.
Because the more we understand about what's happening in the world, the better we can deal with it and work towards a future where everyone has the chance to not just survive, but truly thrive.
Until next time, keep exploring.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.